I am so excited because our gifting continues from wonderful, talented speakers and experts today. We're going to be talking style, and in a very different way. Melissa Murray is the founder of Styleology Group. Melissa's specialty is really working with high-profile speakers, CEOs, folks that really need to look their best and resonate authority and yet still be very approachable. She really works on rebranding as well. So today we're going to find out what color actually says about you, what is the appropriate thing to wear when you're in the media, on TV, or even getting up on stage. We're going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes that people make. Hey everybody, Melissa Murray. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us and spending a little time with us. I can't wait to pick your brain. We have lots of questions for you.
Great. I am ready to go. Let's do this.
Awesome. Okay, so first of all, I want you to explain to me what you had mentioned to me about being certified under one of the masters. Define that, because it really woke me up to like, hey, there's another level of style here that I think that you own. So what is that?
And I do own it. I will say that. I'm very proud to say that I studied and am certified by one of 8 image masters in the entire world. So many times stylists just say, I'm such a great shopper. I love to shop, so come with me and I'll teach you the rules. There is masterfulness behind the camera, as you know. You can't just get on camera and say, I look good on camera. Or what I've learned is the psychology of color. I've learned how to look good on camera and off camera, because as you know, being on camera, what the camera sees and what the human eye sees are 2 very different things.
Yes, and I've learned that the hard way because I didn't have Melissa in my life. Be happy to share those horror stories with you a little later on, everybody.
That's right, and that's part of it. Is you hire someone and you think that they're qualified, or they say they're certified in something, and they're actually not. They're just, or they say, I'm a celebrity stylist. I am not a celebrity stylist. Let me define what I am. I work with CEOs, executives, media personalities, those people who want to be featured on the media or in the media, and I make sure that they execute their brand, that their external matches their message. So there is a whole psychology of what happens behind the scenes to make sure that I'm listening to you, that I'm listening to your message, that I get it, that I want to buy from you, that whether you're an author or a keynote speaker, that I'm really there and I'm present. So my job is to work with those people and captivate and bring you in. And you don't even know it's happening. It's all behind the scenes.
I love that. And when you mention the psychology of color, there is something, we have a gut reaction, and I talk about this when I work with my people at Charisma on Camera and in the Horsepower program. I talk about energy and how as soon as you walk in the room, your energy will affect people one way or the other. They make a judgment on you, even subconsciously. And I think the clothing and the colors that you're wearing have a lot to do with that. So the psychology of that, which, by the way, I was laughing, we have to share the funny story of you and I setting up with our eye. We're so visual that she wasn't as bad as I was. I was back here taking the saddles and moving them from one point to another to try to make sure, and nobody's ever going to really notice that, but we do, you know what I mean? And last night we did a little run through and Melissa was putting like things behind her, but you see, this is part of style, and it really is. Since I have a program with horses, the saddles are appropriate, and you have beautiful colors behind you, Melissa, and so when we're doing video, we really are thinking about everything from what we're wearing to what's behind us. So right. I love that the 2 of us together really had a heck of a time getting rolling here today.
And I shared with you yesterday that my office looks nothing like this behind me on a day-to-day basis, but when I do any type of video, I change all the props, all the lighting. I've got a light here. Usually my office is not red and gold. It is usually filled with blues and turquoises and greens, and so I pull all the props from every other part of our house and every other room, and this is what you get, because you have to be so mindful of that. The point is, you want to be credible. And something in the background, I'll tell you, my #1 pet peeve is when people try to shoot video of any sort or do a Google Hangout like this, and they do it in their kitchen,
Yes.
They're not a chef. There's nothing
Yeah.
relevant about being in the kitchen. And you see their refrigerator that's filled with all of their kids' writings and drawings. I think that stuff is great. But I'm so busy looking in the background going, well,
It's
I want to know more
distracting,
about them.
right? It's distracting.
It's
Yeah.
very distracting. So I think what's going on in the background should be reflective of who you are, what you're doing, what your message is,
Mm-hmm.
and where you want to be. This is going to propel you to what? To what type of greatness do you want?
Right.
And if you create things that are so busy and so distracting, if you noticed, I removed all pictures. I've got great pictures of me and my family, of Rich and I, but it's really not appropriate for the audience. Because you stop, you and I both agree that the goal is to keep people focused right here in the eye. And right here is to, like, this is it. And so when you start distracting the message with this, you have lost your audience. You have not gained trust or credibility. And like you said, everybody's going, what's going on back there? I like what you have going on back there because I know your story with horses.
Yes.
So it
And
resonates.
you're from Texas originally, so this is like down home for you. It's all good. We're talking about distractions, and I think that's a great place to start, if you don't mind. What are some mistakes that people make when they get ready to get on camera? I know that you shared something with me a little while ago about some dangly earrings and how distracting that can be. What are some of the things that people need to look out for that you've seen?
I think when you're going to be on camera, again, we just spoke about, you have to be so overly prepared for anything that can go wrong. So recently I had a client who hired a new hair and makeup person, first time before she paid.
We both made the same face because we know what that's about.
And paid an exuberant amount of money to do this video and had to wash her hair again, redo the hair. The camera people are waiting. I mean, you and I are both cringing because we know that this is not. I happened to be out of town at the time, and so she was like, "I'm just going to get this done. I'm on a tight deadline," and I'm like, "Oh, don't do that."
Well, when you're saying do the hair over again, I'm thinking about the mental state that I would be in if I was holding people up, and then and then you have to go out and be your best. That's nearly impossible.
It is nearly impossible. And this is exactly what I say to people. It doesn't matter whether you're gonna be a keynote speaker, or whether you're gonna be on video or you're in the media. You cannot wear clothes that are too tight, too small, too loose. You have to be strategic and intentional. And the moment you step away from being strategic and intentional, that's where people get into trouble. So the biggest mistakes that I see on camera is not being strategic, not being intentional, trying people out for the first time, hair and makeup. Everyone who is going to be on camera needs to either hire someone to teach them how to be a DIYer. So if you want to DIY your makeup, you need to have the right makeup, the right person teach you, and you need to understand lighting. And most people don't.
I told you my background being in soaps, people always say, well, soap opera people are so beautiful. Why do you think they're so beautiful? It's the lighting. We make really good friends with lighting people. I learned early on.
That's right.
Crucial.
And that's what people don't understand. They say, you know what, I'm just going to turn this Logitech camera on, or I'm just going to turn my computer on, and if you're going to be a DIYer, be strategic and deliberate and learn before you click the on button. Other mistakes that I see people make are wearing big prints and patterns. Again, that draws the eye down. You told me your story.
Yeah.
Share your because I think it's very relevant.
I did a video like that, full of celebrities, and I just had this little, it was all little vignette kind of things, and I wore the colors were beautiful. So I thought, listening to the stylist that I had on my team at the time, like, well, I've got the colors, it's fabulous, but it had this huge print. And when I saw myself, I was just a giant print with a head. And big prints make you look big, I discovered.
They do. And that's why, if I'm talking to someone, if I'm styling someone who is not going to be on television, that is going to be an influencer and a game changer, you can wear print and you can wear it strategically. On camera, which is what we're talking about, the rules are very specific. You cannot do a lot of print. And you and I saw probably a year ago, Colin Powell was being interviewed on television, and I'm not sure who did his styling that particular day, but the television creates, or the camera in correlation, creates a moire effect, which is when the TV dances. We've all seen it when someone has on some kind of crazy, usually a very small print like a herringbone, and it starts to dance. And so you have to be so very careful and deliberate in what you're wearing. I've also seen clients dress head to toe in a red dress and then a red coat over the top, and you look like one big red blob on television. It just doesn't translate well. So another mistake that I see people make is that they do not do their homework in terms of understanding the set that they're going to be on, which you know very well. Are you going to be inside, outside? Are you going to be sitting, standing? If you're going to be sitting, are you on a stool, or are you on a couch, or are you in a chair?
Yes, and the difference as to how short a girl's skirt is going to be.
Yes, we'll talk about the girl's skirt. So here's the tip for you ladies who are going to be on camera about wearing a skirt. You have to sit down, again, once you talk to the producer, once you know where you're going to be in terms of what set, sit down, cross your legs, make sure you know that skirt is not going to creep up. Different fabrics do different things. So be very, very careful. One of my clients said, oh my gosh, look at the shot I just did on Fox the other day. She said, they wanted to see my legs. Well, she's got great legs. Of course they want to see her legs. So they positioned her accordingly. She's a featured guest on there, twice a week. So you just have to be really careful, and you have to make sure that you are credible. And I think that's where people get really off, is that they want to either feel sexy or look sexy or be casual, and it's too casual. You have to play the part. You have to be credible.
That's where it comes in. I think people really do want to be approachable, and we have some questions I want to get to about this. But so let's hold off on that, because I do want to talk about that balance between being approachable and feeling comfortable, and then still keeping that authoritative aspect about your brand. So one thing that you touched on just briefly, and a question popped into my head, and here I am, I'm working on camera more than most of the folks that might be listening, and I still hear yes and no on reds, yes and no on whites. I hear that that's an old-fashioned thing. You can wear red, white, and black, and then other people say, no, you really shouldn't. What is the true story with color?
The true story is, yes, you can. No, you shouldn't. And, the reality is that if, let's say that you had your own show, you're walking into the station every single day. That set is built for you. The lighting is built for you. When you are a featured guest, the lighting is not built for you, and neither is the set. So you do have to be very, very careful in what you wear. Again, you have to ask the producer the right questions. Am I going to be on a green screen or a blue screen? Because if you're going to be on a green screen or a blue screen, if you're going to be on a green screen, you should not be wearing green. Because then you'll just be a
that means any shade of green.
Right, any shade of green. Any shade of green. If you're going to be on a blue screen, you should not be wearing blue. So you're going to be this talking head again, because everything else is going to disappear. And I have this great video that I'll send to you and to your audience, but it's hilarious. So a newscaster showed up, and was on a green screen and was wearing a green shirt. And he's just this, it's like this elf that you can't see this, but you can see his hands.
Went on hair like that?
It is the funniest thing ever, but it's such a great lesson. And you can't just say, yes, I agree to go on the media, and not ask the right questions. So, yes, you can wear white. Do I recommend you wearing white as a guest? Never. Never, ever, ever, because you don't know the lighting. So it could wash you out. You could hear. Yes, you can wear red, and you can wear red very well. Very, very well. If you're going to wear red, understand what your intention is. If you're in a selling mode, if I want you to buy my book, if I want you to buy my product or service, oh, heck yes. If you are trying to gain credibility, then I would put you in a beautiful cobalt blue or a beautiful sky blue. If I want you to buy from me, perhaps I might put you in green, money, green. So again, you have to dive into what the message is to know how to wardrobe you for the camera, so that you accomplish.
One of the most fascinating conversations that I had with you was when you were showing me a video series of one of your clients and pointing out how each step of the series she was accomplishing a different thing with her message, but also the colors that she was wearing was reinforcing those different levels of relationship that she was building in that video series. So 5 videos to lead to a product that you want to introduce people to, I think is a great idea. I encourage my clients to do these kind of things. But with the advice that you can give, where actually in reinforcing even at a subconscious level by the colors that you have, I thought that was really, really interesting. I was fascinated by that.
Oh, well, you know, she is just a powerhouse, and I'll say it was really fun experimenting with her. She had never, this was probably the first time that she and I had worked together, and so we did the video shoots for the lead-in, and then we went to, okay, now these people have bought from her. She's still trying to keep people, she's still trying to draw them in, draw them in, draw them in. And then, so we wardrobed her in strategic colors the first 2 videos. We got to make sure they stay the course. Got to make sure they stay the course. And then there were 8 subsequent videos where they were learning from her. And the ones in the middle, now she gets to infuse her personality. The colors become less important because they bought into the message.
Okay.
They trust. They're there. And then when we get towards the last few videos, we're already into selling mode again, subconscious selling. Not what's coming out of her mouth, but what we know is coming up. And so then we start strategically placing her in different colors. We talked about the green and the money, we talked about the red, we want you to buy. So every time you get in front of the camera, you have to be strategic. You have to know. And you and I talked even when we were, right before we hopped on this Google Hangout, you're like, I'm in my denim jacket. Okay, well that's perfect. You're in your
my denim jacket, well, I think I have something happening with my camera that I hope it doesn't look as faded as it does to me, but I've got a crazy thing happening with the lens on my camera that we haven't figured out yet. But I am wearing something underneath it. I promise I am. It just looks washed out to me. Like
it does get a little washed out, but I know you. You're not that kind of girl.
I wouldn't be here without a shirt on. I don't know that. I'm not that brave or that crazy.
You look beautiful. You look beautiful.
The show must go on, you know. So
you should get inspiration from people who are in the media. They're almost always in solid colors, almost always brilliant colors, always an amazing neckline, sometimes jewelry, sometimes not. Again, it's their set, so the stylists know what to do and what not to do. If you're the guest, doing a big bada bling necklace when you don't know what that's going to do is trouble. The same thing when you have big dangling earrings.
You're taking a chance, and it's not really worth taking a chance. If it goes awry, it's not a good idea.
Right, and the same thing with if you do stacked bracelets. As women, we tend to talk with our hands. I mean, we're always wearing hands.
The sound, right?
Yeah, so you can't wear stacked bracelets and assume that they're not going to make noise. The same thing happens with dangling earrings when you have on a lapel mic. So you want to make sure, and even a lot of hair near your lapel mic, you really have to get that off and make sure that your message can be heard, because you teach people how to have charisma on camera. Well, if someone doesn't get your message, then all of this is for naught.
Yes, if we don't want distractions that are going to take people in the wrong direction.
Right.
We want them looking at you, hearing your message, and these little things like colors and prints and jangly jewelry, things like that. These can be avoided. So that's the idea. That's why we have you on, Melissa, is just sort of wake people up to simple things that they can avoid or that they can actually implement that will help enhance their message and enhance their brand as opposed to distracting from it.
I love, you always wear really neat necklines in all of your videos, your shirts, your blouses, your dresses. I love that. Be careful, because you can't take that same neckline if it's that memorable, right? So like your tangerine, beautiful blouse, the one-sided, you know what I'm talking about. You can't take it.
I wore it for one video series. That was it. Couldn't wear it again.
And you can't ever wear it again. So if you're on a budget, you have to remember to buy things that are beautiful. That I always say, I love an open neckline in video, on camera, if you're networking, because if you're open here, you're saying, come on in. I love
this. I'm looking at you right now on camera, and the line of your neckline opens up to your face, so it's actually drawing the attention up to your face, which is where we were saying that's where you want people to go.
Right here. Right here. You don't want anyone coming down further. When people go down further, they can check you, up and down once. If they keep going down, you have lost them. You've lost your message. You have lost credibility. You've lost trust. You have to keep people here. So, and the whole point is, okay, you go, okay, what's Sandra wearing today? Okay, what's Melissa wearing? Okay, now I'm on. I'm done. What do they have to say?
I definitely had an occasion like that where I had packed for the day and I'd gone down to speak, and I put on a dress that I had not spent a lot of time wearing. And I knew it had a kind of a lower cut. Didn't really think too much of it because it had never been obnoxious before. But what happened is I had come from another event and I had on like one of the, used to call like a wonder bra thing that kind of increased your bust size, right? And I put this dress on and I quickly changed into it in the bathroom, checked my makeup, and I ran back out into the conference where I was going to be speaking. And I looked down and I thought, oh my good heavens, those are very perky. I actually ended up making a joke of it. Thank goodness it was an all-women's luncheon, and I actually made a complete joke of it, and I pointed it out and I had fun with it, and I just said, this is something that you need to watch out for, and I ended up going back and taking my bra off so that it wasn't quite so obnoxious. But I had to point it out that I was walking around like that, and so in a way I made the best of a bad situation, but it was a definite learning experience.
It is.
So very important.
So can I tell you what to do when that happens next time?
Yes.
Hopefully it will never happen, but
hopefully
for your listeners and your viewers, what happens is when we have any bit of cleavage going on, and if we wear like a DVF wrap dress, it enhances the girls. And there are shirts that we wear that also enhance the girls. If you're speaking to a group of women, you want to minimize the girls. The girls should never be on display. But sometimes it happens and we just don't even know before we see ourselves on camera. We go, what?
Where did those come from?
Yeah, it's like, wow, I didn't have those before today. I don't know where that came from. So a lot of times what happens is, especially when we wear a long necklace, so it was something that's fitted and it creates this valley and canyon effect. So then the girls look even bigger. What you need to do is wear a cami underneath. So it smooths everything out. And the same thing with your dress. If you had a cami underneath, then it would just be a smooth transition.
I wore the dress again and I did do that.
Yes.
This time I was very, very aware of it. So I did wear it, and I wore it in a coordinating color and really
Yes.
raised it up.
Right. Because we want to feel special, and we want to feel tall and brilliant and powerful. Sometimes
That was a whole different kind of special.
Yeah, it was.
A little different.
Sometimes we equate that to feeling sexy. So for me, when I am speaking, I usually have on my heels that just make me feel sexy. But I also understand that those heels can make me look racy. And there's a fine line, again, if somebody is focusing on your shoes and they're not listening to the message, there's a big disconnect. And that's really important to keep in mind, that you have to look great from head to toe, but not get lost in translation of your message. So understand what your message is.
I wanted to be able to get to some questions,
Sure.
some more questions as well. We had a couple, but these were very specific. And one of them actually comes from one of my clients in California. She says, I'm very petite. What can I do to appear more authoritative?
I have clients as well who are obviously in the media, and you need to embrace who you are. And if you're petite, embrace your petiteness. It is very special if you're tall. I mean, look at Robin Roberts and Lara Spencer.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. I see them with people, and they tower over most.
Right, and that's okay. As you know, if you're sitting next to one of these 6 feet plus people, they're going to adjust the seats and the chairs. So that's not to be concerned about. If you're petite, be petite. I don't want a woman who feels petite to wear a platform shoe to make herself. It looks ridiculous, and I do
know a lot of women that do that, or at least they're inclined to do that, because it does give a little height. Nothing gives height better than a platform.
Yes, and on camera it looks ridiculous. If you have on, I'll say this: if you're wearing a dress, it looks ridiculous to all of a sudden see this big chunky shoe. If you have on trousers or pants, you can pull off a platform all day long because no one can see it. So there are little subtle tricks that you can do, but again, it's about being strategic and asking the producer the right question. Who's going to be interviewing you? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Who is your target market? Who is the market that this media outlet serves? So you really have to think.
That's part of what I suggest, is do your homework, watch the show, find out who their demographic really is, because sometimes our perception of an audience is actually not the right perception. It's not the majority of the viewers are sometimes what you think. There's another question here we have about color, and this is what fascinates me about your knowledge. So Lori, again, California, says, what color should I wear to be approachable, relatable, be able to build a relationship? And then she's a second part to this: what color to appear successful?
This is I don't have enough information to give you the exact answer because I don't know her whole story.
It's not really a yes or no, black and white kind of answer. No. There's a lot of variables in there, I'm sure.
Very many variables in there. I am a huge proponent, as you know, of cobalt blue. It evokes success. It evokes money. It evokes power. If you think about when you look at presidential elections or even local elections, what are the men wearing? They're usually, the backdrop is usually blue. Their shirt is usually blue, especially in the primaries. And then when you go from yellow and blue ties, and all of a sudden, bam, it shifts, and they're in red. They're in selling mode. So I would tell your client, it really depends on if you want. Different things make people credible. If your brand is, I'm the happiness guru, well, then you should be in orange and yellow, and you should in poppy colors and happy colors. If you are about making money, then I would again go back to the blue family. I'd go back to the regal royal purples. If you are, again, in the final selling mode, if let's say that someone is trying to sell whatever it is, and this is your third interaction, then I would say if you're trying to close that deal, then make no mistake, do red. Mm-hmm. Understand that red also, if you're selling to a woman, red can increase our heart rate.
Is that a good thing?
It can be a good thing in the right situation. It can be, it can also be a negative. Red is it's appetite. What do you
mean by that? Why would it be a negative? What do we need to watch out for?
Because if we're selling to the wrong person, let's say that we're selling to the right person, but if we are wearing red and that person is very docile and very calm, then we need to match and mirror their personality to close the deal. We wouldn't say, I'm going to take their heart rate up to here because that's what I am and I'm going to close this deal. You really have to understand your audience and your market. So if this person is very calm and zen and very tame, red might not be the right option just because you think you're going to close the deal.
Speaking of color, this is color related as well. This same woman had said, and this is again one of those that I think it's going to be hard to say really one way or the other. She said, which is better, red or pink? Because she had some experiences with particularly lip color. Using a bright red lip color, evoked one reaction, and then she used the same intensity of pink, and it was a different reaction. Does that make sense?
It depends on what your message is, and it depends on your skin tone. Like there are some of us who can, with darker hair, who can pull off a red lip on camera all day long. Sandra, I'm sure I can say this wholeheartedly that no one's ever put you in a bright red lipstick.
Oh no, it's been done.
Were you playing the vixen?
Yes.
What role were you playing? My point is
one of those many roles that I had where I was a homicidal psychologist. That was my thing for a while. It still is. I have an ongoing role that I am again a homicidal psychologist. I don't know what it is, but quite often I've actually been able to tone her down a little bit as far as all of that goes. In the beginning, yes, it was very, very vampish, and it's probably not a really approachable look.
That's right, and so that's my point is when I say more times than not when you're on camera, you're going to be in a rose, a nice pink. You don't want to go, again, it depends on what your message is. If your message is fun and racy and you've got the beautiful white teeth and the beautiful skin tone and the gorgeous dark hair, you can absolutely pull off a red lip. Most people don't know what their brand is. They have a brand identity crisis. And so they keep trying and trying, and then they're never happy. There's, I don't like the way I look on camera.
Brands evolve as well.
Yes. Yes.
So when I first started, I thought that I had to wear jackets, suits. I hated them. And then as I became more well-known and I started talking, I felt freer to talk about my experience on camera, and I started to allow myself to be a little bit more goofy and show really who I was, which is part of what I help people do because I understand the value of it now. I was able to sort of loosen that up a little bit and create my own brand, but I think our brand evolves, and even now as I'm starting to use the horses more in our trainings and things, obviously, look at me, I'm wearing a denim jacket, which I never would have done 3 years ago. So. Right. I think it's okay to realize that you don't just use a stylist like yourself once. If you're looking to use someone like Melissa, you don't use her just once. You constantly are reinventing, and it isn't just because of fashion trends.
It's never, let me say, this is not about fashion. Nothing about what I do is about fashion. It is about your brand, DNA, and makeup. What are you trying to do? And when you stop being who you are and who you need to be, if I dress you in a way, and then you walk and your branding and your messaging is one way, and I dress you over here, there's a disconnect in your audience, and they're thinking, what the heck is going on? So it's like when you played different roles on television, you played the vixen, and then you played the angel. And the wardrobing is so different in those arenas.
Huge. Huge.
Huge, huge. I mean, the color choices, the makeup choices, the hair choices.
Well,
And
like I said to people, if you got my free training, I actually refer to this, that when I go into a television show, I get the job from the audition, the very next place that I go is usually a wardrobe. So that the second that my new character walks onto that set, people know right away, am I a good girl or bad girl? This comes from Lee. Lee says, what can I do to hide my belly without wearing a muumuu? And I've talked to a lot of people that try to avoid getting on camera because they want to lose that weight, right?
right. You and I have talked about this.
Yes. So help the sisters out here. What can they do? They don't want to wear a muumuu on camera.
What I'm going to say is never wear a muumuu on camera. Never wear anything oversized on camera, like the one size fits all. Never wear an oversized blouse. What you want to do, the whole goal is to ensure that on camera you look like you have this hourglass figure. So I'm assuming if there's a little bit of body weight in the middle, that perhaps your face is also a little rounder than normal. So in this case, you would want to do a longer earring. You don't have to do as long as what I've got on, but it will help elongate the face. Again, the goal is to balance the entire body. So I would say, in this case, either you have options, but a blazer or a jacket does not have to be I work in a bank kind of jacket. It has to have personality. Like, you want your look to reflect who you are. So if you are, and again, assuming that the question is specific to being on camera, you want to make sure that you don't have shoulder pads 99.9% of the time. And actually, I was going to wear my vintage Chanel jacket. The problem is the vintage Chanel jacket has, my shoulders look like they're up here. And can you see how all that, my neck is no longer elongated?
You would lose that. You would lose that.
Yeah. And that's the point of also wearing something that's open. So let me give you, so if I do this, what just happened to my face? Like, I am now this talking head, and I've lost my openness and my personality. So what people tend to do when they're feeling a little overweight is to sort of step back and shut down. And that's not what you teach people. And that's not what I teach people, is to go in and embrace it. I mean, I've shared my story with you. I am 15 pounds heavier than I've ever been. That doesn't mean I don't get on camera. That doesn't mean that I don't do the things that I'm supposed to do. It doesn't mean that I don't share my message to the masses, because the message is important. So the advice that I would give to your audience today is embrace who and where you are in the moment. Stop the muumuu conversation in your head. You're the only one here. No one else says, oh my gosh, she doesn't look perfect. You're extraordinary. Stop the head trash and get out of it. What I would say is, yes, there are tips for looking great on camera. Get out of your head. It's silliness. All of us have amazing gifts and talents. Stop the insanity.
I love it. Pinterest, find Melissa Murray on Pinterest, right?
It's at Styleology Group.
There we go. Okay, good. That's how we find. How else do we find you? If we want to get more info, I'll have some of your stuff here for sure. But tell everybody now, what's the best way that we can find you and learn from you?
Best way to find me is at www.styleologygroup.com and Melissa at styleologygroup.com.
Very practical and very personable approach to everything. So I think if you're looking for a speaker, Melissa would be great as well. So thank you so much for hanging with us today.